Kanye. Tucker opens the Kanye segment by saying, people call him crazy, but that was not our verdict. In fact, you rarely hear a man speak so honestly and movingly about what he believes. Speaking honestly and movingly about what you believe is like the biggest tell that you're mentally ill in 2022. What are you talking about, totally. Tucker?
Yeah. Yeah. And God bless him.
Black, mentally ill, and low IQ, a triple threat.
You think Kanye's really low IQ?
I think he's not low IQ, but he's like middling IQ. He's not a high IQ man, but he is. I think that he is.
Moses stuttered, bro. Did you hear him say that?
No.
Oh. He talks about how sometimes God doesn't choose the most like obvious or perfect vessels for his message, and he says Moses stuttered.
I think Kanye would do very poorly on an IQ test, but I do think that he is not stupid.
Of course not.
And he is genius level in certain regards. He's like an idiot savant. He's obviously like a very talented, brilliant artist. A lot of people are like, I don't like hip hop and I don't like Kanye. And I'm just like, go fuck yourself, loser.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Kanye's a genius.
He is like a very good artist. Am I crazy?
No. I like every single thing Kanye does. Also, like, remember George Bush doesn't care about black people?
Yeah.
People were calling him crazy back then, too.
Yeah.
And guess what? George Bush didn't care about black people. But, no, I'm fully, a Kanye apologist to the max, especially because our kind of, when Jesus is King came out, that was like when I was having some problems with mania and becoming Catholic back in 2019. Around the time we went to like the Trad Cath brunch and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like,
that was 2019.
That was 2019.
Wow. Okay.
I was on Wellbutrin, shout out End of Men documentary. I was on Wellbutrin and Adderall, and like fully in the throes of like religious mania. And then Kanye dropped Jesus is King, and I was like, it's all happening. I was like, when I don't know if this is in part 1 or 2, but he talks about Tucker asks him about his prayer life, and he says like, this is a prayer right now. He's like, I'm always praying, which is very Eastern Christian, constant prayer. The idea that like you're always...
Kanye needs to meet us.
He needs to meet us. When he says, you may not believe in God, but God believes in you. And he goes on this weird spiritual tirade.
You need to teach him about Eastern Christianity. And I need to red pill him on race science and also whitewash the bad taste in his mouth that he has about Armenians, because we're not all bad. We're not like
he speaks very kindly about Kim, actually. He does. Where he talks about, but in this religious sort of tirade, he also, there's a point where he says why am I alive, and like why am I the richest black man in America, blah blah blah. I don't even know if that's true, but
that's so not true.
But that it's reminiscent of like, you know, I don't think there's any like pro athlete, for example, who's like an atheist. Like people that are truly exceptional often also believe in God, because if you're even remotely intelligent, I think you realize that your like talents cannot just be like attributed. There's like a spirit inside of you that is
if you're remotely intelligent, you realize that it would be uncouth and unflattering to attribute your success strictly to yourself. So you do the humble thing and pretend that God has a stake in the matter.
I don't think so. I think you
have to believe. Well, you have to believe.
Well, also if you're mentally ill,
well, these are my favorite. I wrote my favorite lines from the interview down from part 1. I eliminated the BLM officer at Adidas.
He says BLM officer a lot, which is awesome.
If people say Trump is the first black president, I'm going to be the first Latino president, which was actually like people. You want to say Kanye is dumb? That statement right there is worth 1,000 IQ tests. Atheists love the term narcissist when you believe in yourself. Blacks have never demanded something for their vote. Untrue, but anyway, Yeah, I mean, where were we? He believes in himself because the only man he answers to is God.
Yes.
Which is a fine line between...
He says he performs for an audience of one, and that's God. And, but he also says something, this must be in part two, where Tucker interrogates his faith, but he says, like, the more that he makes himself a vessel for God, and the more that he wins through God, the more wins God bestows on, like, the Jesus gang. And that's dead ass how I felt when Jesus is King came out. Like, I was like, we're winning. I was like, this is the triumph of Christianity. And, like, I have seen the true, I mean, I still feel this way, obviously, to a less, like, skitzed degree. But, like, when Jesus is King came out, I was having a manic episode. So I feel weirdly, like, I don't know. I feel a real affinity with Kanye, and every time he talks about his spirituality, I'm like, absolutely. I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know. Is mania a gift from God, or is it a hormonal disorder?
He plays to a very kind of like primordial, childlike place of our id.
Yeah. To enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be like a child.
Yeah, and you must be like a raging pathological narcissist to some degree. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because, you know, he raised a bunch of like very salient points in the first part, where like when he talked about how it was demonic to promote obesity in the culture, which is like a simple and obvious thing that should be just like reiterated again and again, as all these like egg slunkers try to do. But then Tucker continued the line of questioning and asked him why it's being promoted. And he said, well, because they're trying to genocide blacks. And I'm just like, come on, man, you're wearing like a White Lives Matter shirt. You know better than that. You know, it's like an Alex Jones tier conspiracy theory. Like, ain't nobody trying to genocide blacks. They're trying to use blacks to intimidate everybody else into swallowing their party line. And they're trying to keep blacks voting Democrat. And
they're trying to make everybody sick.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not uniquely singling out blacks. Like the fact that he reverts to this like very vulgar ethno narcissism is depressing.
But where he is right, I think, is on his like pro-life tip.
Yeah,
when he says that 50% of black death is related like is abortion. In the womb, yeah. I mean, that's not true. That like.
Yeah.
And that's something a lot of these like pro-choice people don't want to talk about, is that like there is well,
who's getting abortions? But he says
it's a eugenics program.
He says for politicians, all black people are worth is an approval rating. So implicitly that means that they're not trying to genocide you. They're trying to exploit you. It's the reality is much more unflattering because it's much more mundane. It's less cinematic. It's much more flattering to believe that somebody is trying to genocide you.
That Margaret Sanger started Planned Parenthood with the KKK.
Yeah, and it's like
I don't know if that's true, but
all ethno-narcissism is again like this rationalizing of yourself as the target when you're really the collateral. And even if you are, better to like not to be indulge.
A total libtard.
It's better not to indulge. And I feel like the kind of major.
Well, Kanye says this too. He also has made points before that people were upset about
what?
About slavery.
Wait, what has he said?
That people were like over invested in this narrative of like being downtrodden slaves, and that,
I mean, I believe it was like functionally racist and cruel and like anti-human.
I mean, they literally
I'm not like a big fan of slavery or anything like that.
No, of course not.
I just think Kanye does the typical thing where all of his mental activity is channeled toward this one goal of avoiding a confrontation with reality. So he has to indulge in like paranoid and conspiratorial thinking. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so.
And it creates a great deal of psychological torment and also moral fatigue. Okay. To constantly keep this.
I feel like you're attacking me.
No, I'm not. I'm not, but that's like
because I also do exactly that.
But he is like avoiding any external inputs that would like contradict his omnipotent fantasy image of himself.
I mean, he's so famous. It's like a curse, you know, he
Yeah.
can't, which is why I think his faith is so fervent as
Yeah.
well, as like he has to sort of justify the exact exceptional position he's in by, and it is, I mean, that it is also by the grace of God. Like, God made Kanye famous. Kanye has a relationship with God.
No, he is,
and he is,
but also
stuff.
he's clearly like very famous and very controversial because he strikes a chord with people. So anyone trying to like kind of like diminish him on that, on that level is wrong. But like, yeah, I mean, his whole thing is like skillfully avoiding the mundane and unflattering reality, which in bold and creative people like him comes very precariously close to like looking like he's actually addressing reality. That's why like Alex Jones also strikes a chord, because he'll say some shit that feels so real.
Yeah. But that is like real. There isn't a, I don't know. I don't think that there is some kind of baseline objective reality.
No, there isn't. There isn't.
I think that Kanye is saying something true.
Yeah.
And that he is referring to a kind of reality that he has access to because he is exceptional.
Yes. And the reason that he really also infuriates people is because he is exceptional. It's not really based on what he says, though he knows how to push buttons.
He
like
does.
when he pretends, when he's like, oh, like, well, you know, I wore the White Lives Matter shirt because I thought it was funny and obvious, and I didn't realize that it would create so much hate. It's like, you knew. It's like us and our stupid little ISIS t-shirts. You knew on some intuitive level. But he is exceptional, and I think he provokes people because, again, his mere existence implies that there's like some hierarchy of talent.
Mm-hmm. And that's why he can't be, you know, JP Morgan can close his bank account.
They do be, yeah.
But I spoke too soon because I tweeted that Kanye was sort of evidence of how you can do whatever you want if you only fear God. But you can't do whatever you want. You can't talk about the Jews. And then, I said that prior to his tweet about going, quote, DEFCON 3 on the Jewish people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no, not that. I was like, you can do anything, but not that.
But that's also
that's the one thing you can't do. They'll close your bank account. You
Jews.
can't. Yeah, you
but
can't
also,
do that.
like, everybody needs to stop taking the Jews so seriously.
Well, also, but right before that one, he tweeted, "Who do you think created cancel culture?" And baby, that wasn't the Jews, because I think really cancel culture was sort of precipitated by the Me Too movement, which was notoriously, in my opinion, very anti-Semitic, at least in the first like few waves of it. It was
because they were
Jewish
like,
guy after Jewish guy. It was like Jewish
it
pervs.
wasn't anti-Semitic. It's just like Jewish guys are the most numerous offenders.
Well, they're very powerful.
Like gray area sex crimes.
They're the most powerful
and they're horny.
in Hollywood, and they're horny. So
it's like an unfortunate Venn diagram of powerful and horny.
It had a very anti-Semitic flavor to me, which was that like, oh, like this gross Jew is defiling our most precious chicks, the actresses, like this one, this one.
It Eli's beautiful 80-year-old Jewish aunt said, Harvey Weinstein was targeted because he was ugly and Jewish. Yes. Absolutely.
And because Miramax
I don't understand why
profitable.
that man is serving 23 years, which is the life sentence.
No, he was horrible. He was disgusting. But the thing is that it was it wasn't a secret. It was like everyone knew that he was doing it. Everyone knew how Hollywood.
To say this now, every woman who went up to his hotel room, I don't care how young and naive she was, knew what was going on. Oh. He's a disgusting, gross person. But
the thing that Harvey
to punish Harvey because your career didn't go as well as you wanted it to go and you aged out.
Dude, I'm with you. I think I said this, perimenopausal women started the Me Too movement as vengeance against like the abuses of the Hollywood system that are real, that Harvey was a perpetrator of. I think the thing that Harvey did that was really unforgivable was he ruined Mira Sorvino's career.
Who cares about Mira Sorvino?
She's a very talented actress. She is,
No.
dude.
She's fine. Why did he ruin her career?
Because she wouldn't fuck him.
I don't-
And she got blacklisted for it. She did. No, Mira Sorvino, I'm sorry. She would have had, we could have seen her. She never got a chance, really, to like,
Okay.
I'm
just saying, if you went to Harvey's hotel room because you wanted to be a famous actress,
of course,
you knew what was going on.
Everyone knew what kind of man Harvey was 100%. There was no doubt about it. When I moved to LA in 2013, I had people say to me like, oh, you're so pretty. You could be a Weinstein girl. And like, everyone knows what that means. Like that means you can get raped by Harvey Weinstein. Whatever. There was something karmically wrong with what he did, and he had to be brought to some kind of justice. And he was unfortunately like the scapegoat for a lot of things that were wrong in Hollywood.
But
because Miramax stopped being profitable.
I'm tired of scapegoats. Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah.
Tulip Fever was a flop. People don't want to talk about.
What's Tulip Fever?
Exactly. What's
Tulip Fever? It's like the Eddie Redmayne movie.
Vikander. Yeah, it was some like Dutch drama that was just a major flop, and Miramax was like crumbling. And
it sounds like it could have been good.
I'm sure it's fine, but it was just like the power producer that he was no longer, and like things changed, whatever. But it was the vengeance of perimenopausal women, and it was not Jews.
Well, maybe Democrats. It was Democrats. They invented cancel culture.
Yeah. And maybe
it wasn't women or Jews. Let's
like,
not blame special minority groups.
Exactly. Maybe insofar as like the Jews have I don't think they control the media truly, but like they're influential within it.
Hold on. I have a question regarding Harvey, because Pamela Anderson had a famous run-in with him where he invited her to his hotel room and she refused because she said she knew what that implied. Well, her career wasn't ruined. Was she just simply too big to fail?
She might have been too big to fail. Think about Mira. I mean, she had have you seen Mighty Aphrodite, by the way?
I have, yeah.
She's great in that. She's
Mira Sorvino's not. She's not my favorite actress.
Wow. She's not my favorite actress.
I'm sorry. She's not my favorite actress.
I really do.
I have no particular opinion on Mira Sorvino, but like I don't think Harvey ruined her career.
I think it was, maybe a couple years later he wouldn't have been able to, but like at the time I don't know. I really think that. I think she could have I think you might have a better opinion of Mira Sorvino had she not been blacklisted. And there are de facto blacklists in Hollywood. There just are. I know, I'm on some of them. And
okay. Wait, there are actually. Like,
yes,
they won't work with you. Okay.
People can ruin your life in Hollywood if you do not like fall in line.
Okay, but Dasha, I'm like a Kanye-ist or like a raw egg nationalist. And maybe this is like delusional and cope, but I think that if you really believe in yourself, fuck the blacklist and fuck anything. Like you can literally do anything you want to do.
Yeah.
And like, as Quentin Crisp said, in an expanding universe, time is on the side of the outcast. So at the end of the day, you will win. And I think that the problem with all these,
and God believes in you.
Yeah. And and I like that about Kanye, that he like at least believes that he believes in his relationship with God. Like that's sort of all important. That's actually ultimately why he's so compelling, right? And why he keeps, quote, winning, even when he's losing.
Yeah, because he is speaking a form of truth, and he's not going about it in the most like eloquent, cohesive, coherent way at all. But he is like, and Tucker said this in one of his interludes where he was like, famous people have to follow a script. And Kanye West is not following a script, and he's not. And that's for me, it's like, yeah, I saw lots of people on Twitter being like, conservatives are so desperate for approval that they'll like.
Well, they are. They're so desperate for approval from based blacks. They really just like want that one black guy, which is why so many of them
But
were
for
like,
me, it's like, I don't even care what his politics are. I'm like, I'm just happy like someone mentally ill is talking. Like, I'm like, and people are listening. Like, I'm happy that someone is shifting an Overton window of what it is acceptable to say in some way or another.
I think like Kanye's views on the Jews, for example, are like pretty standard fare in like the quote black community. I mean,
Sure.
the blacks and Jews have a very fraught relationship. Jews walked so blacks could run.
Mm-hmm.
Make of that what you will. But
then the Jews manage, though.
The hair splitting arguments about they took
then
their
the Jews
royalties.
get 10% of the
30%. The hair splitting arguments about whether or not Kanye is low IQ or mentally ill ultimately don't resonate because they don't matter. It doesn't matter, right? Because he's got
Not
you
at all.
talking.
Not at
right?
all. Yeah.
So he's doing like something right. My favorite thing about the interview was like we got treated to an extra dose of Tucker's low IQ squint because he was like desperately trying to figure out what Kanye was saying.
You kept talking about Gabby.
Gabby, my mother-in-law.
Who is
and this
Gabby?
chick, Gabby. I was like, who the fuck is Gabby?
He brought up Gabby so many times, didn't elaborate on who she was at all. Someone who is in the fashion world, apparently.
Yeah.
And then he was like, then went on that tangent about Lizzo, then like kind of brought Gabby up again. And like, bro, we don't know who Gabby is.
I was like, and
is she one of the BLM managers that you're mad about?
Really
like, we
funny
don't
to watch Tucker like zone out and then be like kind of parachute back into the comment. Like, yeah, brilliant. I totally hear what you're saying. My other favorite subplot of this was like all these Jewish celebs like Sarah Silverman and Regina Spektor being like, there's 14.8 million Jews because we never rebounded from the Holocaust when there were 16.6 million Jews, and Kanye has 30 million followers and he's spreading dangerous and irresponsible anti-Semitism.
Meghan McCain made this point.
Yeah.
A little ineloquently.
Yeah.
In a deleted tweet. Yeah.
They're all like circulating the same fucking keynote from the APL. Like how are you all generating? It reminded me of Michael Tracy being like 5.5.
Yeah. Yeah. ADL was quick to renounce him. Yeah. So after the Tucker interview, then he made a series of increasingly controversial tweets. I'm gonna read it because I was in France, so it was I think the morning for me. So I like remember seeing it and texting people in New York being like, Kanye's saying it. I'm a bit, it's really good. I'm a bit sleepy tonight. But when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3, many spaces, on Jewish people. The funny thing is, I actually can't be anti-Semitic because black people are actually Jew also. You guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who ever opposes your agenda.
He's on that Hotep high horse.
And then he got banned from Twitter after
and
already
from banking.
And from banking and from Instagram. So point taken. People aren't really talking about how he
really
said black
like
people.
A Norm Macdonald
he said
joke.
black people are Jew.
Yeah.
And like people don't want to have that convo.
He said black people are Jew, not black people are Jews. He said black people are Jew.
He said black people are Jew.
He tweets like my mom. It's like real Gemini energy.
Totally.
Black people, they are Jew. They are ethnic Ethiopians. Hotep. Haile Selassie.
I think this was in some of the deleted footage that Vice,
that Anna Merlin,
friend of the pod, Anna Merlin leaked.
Yeah.
Where he
Do you think she would ever come on the pod?
Absolutely not, dude.
She might. She's
I
like the
don't
female
want- I don't wanna
Moldbug.
be
She wears
around
that
her.
shrunken leather jacket and all photo ops.
I don't want to talk to Anna more. I have shit to say.
Like,
to
hey,
her.
so your name is also Anna, and you're like kind of witchy.
Mhm. Did you know that doing tarot is a mortal sin? Yeah, I think that it was in one of those clips where he's like talks about black people being one of the 12 tribes of Israel, and that's where he gets real kind of mentally ill and says like, you know, the tribes of Israel, the blood of Jesus. That's, you know, he's like says something really crazy. But he didn't get to go DEFCON 3 on the Jewish people because he got banned from Twitter and banking. But
Yeah, I mean, I think like blacks and Jews are really a match made in heaven. They are.
they deserve
Each other. Yeah. I really previously thought it was the Germans and the Jews, but I think it's the blacks and the Jews now. And it's funny because all these like prominent like Jewish like celebs and pundits and personalities complaining about Kanye's like dangerous and irresponsible rhetoric are doing more to stoke anti-Semitism than Kanye himself.
Exactly. If they could just be cool about it.
There's a whole essay about this by sociologist John Murray Cudahy. I recommend that you guys look into
what's
this.
it called?
I don't remember, but it's about basically how it's actually in this book, Uncivil Religion, Interreligious Hostility in America, edited by Robert Bella, recommended to me by Second City Bureaucrat that I Amazon Prime.
Oh, nice.
It's a really good book, and the argument that he's making is that Jews, by resting on the laurels of their ethno-narcissism and like stoking paranoia and conspiracy within their own communities, foment more anti-Semitism than is even due them.
They love it.
Because they love the negative attention.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, Ryder Rip's husband, I blocked him years ago. After we got into a spat about the Sony hack.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Where I was like, that reptoid Barack Obama claims the I was on some weird conspiratorial kick about the Sony hack that Ryder was refuting, and I didn't like it. So I haven't really, but he's apparently has footage of Kanye like talking about how he loves Hitler back in like 2018 or something. I'd be interested to see it. Leak it, Ryder. I dare you.
He claims he does.
Yeah. And that he felt that he was traumatized and felt uncomfortable at his time, like working in the periphery of Kanye's sphere because he was so into like the Third Reich.
Oh, because he did. Yeah. I think that Kanye is well within his rights to say whatever he wants about the Jews. And I think the Jews are well within their rights to get hurt and offended by Kanye's comments. Where I start to lose the plot is when they make it into like a political issue of like oppression and endangerment. That's just annoying. And by the way, I sympathize with my Ashkenazi brethren as like a marginal one of them.
Yeah.
Like I get the anti-Semitism is everywhere. It's like it's like endocrine disruptors. It's like literally in the air and the water.
Yeah. It's the oldest hatred.
Yeah. Don't mention it. You're rich. You're happy. You're married. You got some kids. You're working in banking. Don't mention it. It's not worth mentioning. You only ratchet it up. Just keep it to yourself, Jews. Please.
I mean, and you have a whole sphere of influence, but also like self-loathing, wherein you can do a kind of like Jewish minstrelsy, all like Philip Roth or something, where people will also, you know, you can kind of like, you get to do it too.
People are negatively attracted to you.
Exactly. And you get to do anti-Semitism too as a Jew. So like you're not missing out on anything. It's called
self-loathing.
Exactly. You're not missing out on anything. You have a whole like self-deprecating genre of like humor and influence that everyone also is enjoying and loving from you. Like you guys are doing a great job.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
All the egg slunkers secretly know you're superior. We all bow down. You don't have to like mention it at every turn because no one's actively trying to oppress you. You own the instruments of banking.
And yeah,
But
Hollywood,
what really
media, blah
like
blah. It goes on. The list goes on.
what really struck me about the Kanye interview was like, you know, everybody was fixating on these like Jew comments, and what really struck me was his palpable pain over his father rejecting and abandoning him, and he was almost trying to make excuses for his father.
I know,
and it's
I
like,
know.
as we all know, people transfer their primitive childhood pain into
Yeah.
proxy narratives about the Jews.
Yeah. Oh, so true.
And it was very there was like a double approval. Like he and his dad were having a conversation about his White Lives Matter shirt that he then shared in the interview with Tucker, and it was almost he was seeking approval doubly so,
Yeah.
because he clearly cannot acknowledge that his dad was kind of a shitty dad who failed him, and
he
has
says,
to elevate his dad as this aspirational, omnipotent figure where he's like, my dad was like very educated, and he was a Black Panther who was like just read a lot of books, who was very educated.
and my mother was an actress, so she was a liberal.
Yeah,
he says.
I know.
And
Yeah,
I was like, was your mother an actress?
I think she was the chairwoman of an English department. I don't recall Donda ever being
I
an
don't think
actress.
Donda was an actress of any repute.
No. She acted in some plays.
He was
and,
projecting, something about maybe an idea he has about Kim Kardashian, who he later talked about being like a synthesis of Marilyn Monroe, as well as like all these, she's a multi-billionaire, she's everything, she's beautiful, she's, all this stuff. But, yeah, and that his mother kept him from his father, and that people thought he was crazy for buying a house next to Kim, and said he was stalking her and Pete Davidson.
I don't think his mother kept him from his father. My hunch is that his father left, and that hurts him, which is normal. Like, that's as it should be. You should be hurt by...
But he claims his dad, he asked
I'm sure his
dad,
mother said some like unflattering things about his father.
He claims he asked his dad why he didn't, when his mother moved to Chicago. Oh, it's so sad.
Where are they from?
actually.
Atlanta?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they moved to Chicago because she got some job there as an
English
actress.
department.
Yeah. And he says in the Tucker interview, he says like, and I asked my dad, like, why did you let us move to like the most dangerous place? It's like they were trying to kill me.
Who's they? Jews?
Just whatever, the powers that be were trying to kill him. And like, why didn't you come for us, Dad? And his dad said his mom didn't let him, which I think is...
But again, I bet there are a bunch of like unflattering, mundane economic reasons for why his mom separated from the dad and moved to the south side of Chicago that have no like weird conspiratorial explanation.
And I don't think, that his dad maybe tried that hard to
be in his life.
life.
And so he's had to kind of
truth.
Erect him as this like infallible, omnipotent figure.
Well, that's why he loves God too so much,
But I think like a lot of his paranoid conspiratorial thinking is like literally that. It's like a proxy for the fact that he feels like I mean, he's like a very tragic figure. I mean, remember that his mother died on the operating table getting like a suite of plastic surgeries that he was paying for because the anesthesiologist fucked up.
Yeah.
So he has that.
No,
it's like an Oedipal thing. Like he is like has to kind of like
kill his mom and fuck his dad.
No, but he has to pay for he has to like seek kind of Sisyphean forgiveness for murdering his mother symbolically by like making bad art and bad takes for the rest of his life.
I love Donda. I still listen.
Donda's
to
a good
all the
album.
time. I think his art is good. I mean, I think his music is...
I love his music. I'm just saying, like,
good.
It's not getting any better. Just like statistically speaking, because like artists don't get better with age; they get worse. Unless you're like, we'll see. But
we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's also funny that he makes this claim that like Kim's management and her handlers are making her pose with her ass out when she's a 40-year-old multi-billionaire with 4 black children. That's so hilarious. No one's ever pulled Kim's arm to take her clothing off. She's literally like, I think she would find it completely objectionable and intolerable to be a multi-billionaire who lived in, she couldn't be an Olsen twin who lived a private life and had a fashion label. She literally needs to have her ass and pussy and tits out at all times, or else she doesn't feel like a human being.
And he knew
that going into it. And he just like cannot admit that his ex-wife is a hoe. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way, because I get it. Kim's a through and through exhibitionist. That's like literally where she derives her sense of like pleasure and purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I do think it is, I don't know, undignified to have as many kids as she does, and to be the age that she is, and to, you know, no one, like, I don't see pics of Kim now and I'm like, God, wow, she's so beautiful. You know, I'm like, oh, look at this freak. She's a freak. She's practically a freak to me.
But she can't not do what she does.
No.
And she couldn't.
And
like, he
known
knew that going into that. There's not some secret cabal of like Epstein Jews who are making Kim pose nude in
the
Stuart
Clintons
Weitzman ads.
It's not the
Stuart
Clintons'
Weitzman,
fault.
Yeah. And also, like,
it's not Gabby.
That I found very not credible
Gabby's
either.
not,
When he was like, "Oh, I didn't realize how close she was with the Clintons." It's like, what are you talking about? You're married to this woman and you have 4 kids with her. You don't realize who she's hanging out with? Yeah, that's on you, bro. Mm-hmm. That's not her like secret Machiavellian machinations.
No. I know. There were the moments that were the most muddled were when Kanye was pandering, I thought, to, you know, he was like pretending he had some smoking gun about the Clintons trying to get him to talk about vaccinations or whatever, but it's like none of us are buying it.
Yeah, she was like taking Zoom calls with like Hillary, and they were like, "Oh, great, we're gonna organize this wives of executed prisoners luncheon."
She's an activist. She's Marilyn Monroe. She's
like Kim and her like bodycon Margiela, and Hillary and her like Shantung silk, Steven Seagal like Nehru collar pantsuits.
When he started, by the way, he also always has these sort of episodes in the fall. I think there's something about the changing seasons and maybe Paris Fashion Week. I don't know. But I think if we charted kind of a timeline of Kanye's like activity to correspond to his mental health, I think like the fall is often when he has, which I get. There's a change, so you get kind of a little invigorated. The way, like, you know, most people kill themselves in the spring, paradoxically, you would think like, yeah, because it's like you go through winter and then like spring comes and you still don't feel better, but you have enough energy to like go through with it. You don't have that like exhaustion of winter, so you're able to act on like a suicidal impulse.
It's vulgar to kill yourself in the winter. It's too obvious.
Yeah. And the spring gets a little warmer, and then you have a little more energy. It's like going
euthanasia.
It's like when you go on Wellbutrin, you know, and you like.
I've never. Should I go on antidepressants?
Do not.
Okay.
But one
just
of
like for fun. I'm not that depressed.
Wellbutrin is, you know, you'll get a lot done, honestly. But
okay, that's my problem, that I avoid and procrastinate.
The Wellbutrin
and would like to get more done.
Will really,
and it keeps you skinny and maintains your libido. Is this correct?
Yes.
All right, maybe I'll avoid all the fucking.
It's not a weird. It's
slonking and tanning my balls, and I'll just go straight to the Wellbutrin.
It's not an SSRI. Yeah, that was the subliminal messaging of the End of Men doc. It's not an SSRI, which kind of like bog you down and make you too tired to be depressed.
They give you a receding hairline.
Yeah, the Wellbutrin, they call it like the happy, horny, skinny drug, and it's like functionally like an upper. And why was I talking about Wellbutrin?
I don't remember. Something about Kanye not committing suicide.
Oh, right. But one of it does kind of increase the risk of you killing yourself, because what it does is give you the energy to do the things you kind of feel like doing, which is like
Killing
maybe
yourself.
answering an email or yeah, like I distinctly remember going on Obution and like the train coming and being like, I could do it. Like
You felt emboldened. You felt empowered.
yeah, I
to
felt
kill yourself.
empowered. I was like, I can pick up my dry cleaning, I can answer some emails, I can finish my screenplay, and I can jump in front
Kill
of this
myself.
train.
Wow, that's so
And
cool.
like I could do it. Like I was a little too tired to do it before.
Bap had a good prediction that Kanye is going to apologize and then admit himself into therapy.
I don't think he will. He already said in to page 6 that he was happy that he said what he said, and they were asking him, I think, about JP Morgan like banning him from banking, and he said like I'm happy I said what I said. I don't think he has it in him to apologize. I think he's too has he ever? I don't think he will. I think he's gonna like kind of coast through. There's gonna be like a dormant period, and then he'll kind of emerge again.
Mm-hmm.
And he's undeniable. He's just
Well,
I don't know.
He has something greater than IQ.
Exactly. He's got God on his side.
Yeah. He has insane godly levels of retardation. He's like Buddha. He does kind of look like Buddha.
When you have
He
God,
looks like a Buddha figure.
he has qualities.
I'm sick of people being mean to Kanye because even though I understand, I sympathize with the view that he's low IQ and mentally ill, but I don't care about all that.
I like that about him. I relate to that. I am happy that someone mentally ill is like has a
Steering the ship.
platform and is
Well, only mentally ill people have a platform now.
That's not true. There's so many celebs.
But
I don't
celebs
know.
virtually don't have a platform now.
Well, they have to stick. They don't have an authentic platform, in
Yeah.
that they have to sort of stick to a script, or else they'll be ostracized from their work
Yeah.
environment. But so I'm happy Kanye is like, I don't know. I don't agree necessarily with everything he says,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't matter because I like that he's like being unhinged in public. And that's what counts in the end, is like the spirit of like someone who can say whatever.
Yeah, he's like, it's like Trump derangement syndrome. There's also like Kanye derangement syndrome, KDS.
Exactly.
And if you can inspire it,
You've already won.
the world is your oyster.
Mm-hmm. God bless you, Kanye West.
I think we've done enough.
We've done almost 2 hours. Yeah, we can really wrap it up.
Okay. How much of this do I have to cut? What did I said Harvey Weinstein did nothing wrong.
You didn't say that exactly, but whatever.
Emboldened by Kanye West and some hard cider. I finally spoke.
Well, yes. Did you see that town hall
No.
meeting that
I'm a Trump
AOC
supporter and I think Harvey did nothing wrong. I'm finally speaking my piece.
There was some guy who yelled at AOC at like some town hall thing she was holding.
Oh yeah, because she was like stamping, like green lighting, selling weapons to Ukraine.
And he was like, "Where if we all die?" He was like, to me that felt very Kanye adjacent. Like I kind of was
but
like,
then she fired back and she was like,
she said he was being rude.
The sad thing was that he was being rude to a deaf woman who was in the audience. So he actually talked over somebody who had a disability.
No, she said that.
She literally said that on Twitter.
Come on, man. No one's buying that.
I'm just like high on my own supply because I've been so thoroughly vindicated about my AOC opinion.
You were completely right. AOC, of course.